Hello, everyone. It's Suzanne Hart here, and this week's habit is conflict. Now, this is one of my favorite habits to talk about because it's probably one that makes many people uncomfortable. The first thing I'm going to ask you is how comfortable are you with conflict? How comfortable are you with? For many people, when they think of conflict, they think of negative, they think of arguments, they think of disagreements that escalate into this thing called conflict. But a conflict is actually two opposing points of view, a difference of opinion, or just difference in general. Conflict can be external, which is a different point of view between two people or a group of people, and it can be internal. And that's often when your beliefs and values are at opposition with something you may have to do or a decision you may have to make. And it's really creating this internal stirring. Now, those are the two most common conflicts I want to talk about in this video. Now, in order to really begin to get comfortable with conflict, you have to ask yourself, what do you make conflict mean? As I said at the top of the video, oftentimes we make it mean something negative. So I know for myself, when I thought of conflict when I was younger, it was loud, it was aggressive, and the person who yelled the loudest or was the most aggressive won the day. Now, that's not a very functional definition of conflict. And what happened for me was I would avoid it, and I would often hold things inside, never expressing my true opinion because I wanted to avoid the heated disagreement because that was my experience. Now I've defined it as a difference of opinion that gives me access to change. So in other words, when two people have difference of opinion, different points of views, if I'm open to listening, I'm often going to learn, grow, and possibly shift my perspective or expand my perspective. Now, one of the things about conflict is it's not resolved when two people agree. It's often more, a better definition is resolution happens when someone feels heard and their opinion is valued. Does that mean that you move on the opinion of someone? Sometimes you do, but sometimes you don't. But more importantly, I think it's to allow a person to express their point of view and allow them to feel heard. Now, the beautiful thing about this is when we take it from that place, it often opens up dialogue and gives us access to different points of view. And when we get into discussion from that place, things expand. The other thing I look at conflict is often a sign for me that something needs to change or something is about to change. I like to look at it as I've been standing in the same place too long, and I'm being nudged to grow, become more, learn, change. When I'm faced with internal conflict, it's often a good thing because it's forcing me to examine my values and beliefs before actually making a decision. So the beautiful thing about conflict, if you don't look at it as something that's always antagonistic, but possibly, no matter when it's happening, a good thing, because it's often an indicator that there's difference at play that needs to be resolved, or it's time for a change to happen. Now, I want to talk about the difference between a conflict and actually doing something about a conflict. Because sometimes we have conflict at play, and it's just a notice, and there may not be anything to do about it other than notice it. And then there's conflict at play, which is a difference of opinion that is required to be acted upon. One of the big things for me was really learning to choose my battles. And just because I had a difference of opinion doesn't mean any other things that I had a difference of opinion. But sometimes there was a difference of opinion and there was an action required. And in that point, there needed to be dialogue so that some kind of agreement, resolution, new way of being, a way to move forward can be defined, and a conclusion can be made. Remember, the key thing I want you to understand is just because two people have conflict and they have difference of opinion doesn't mean that it always ends in agreement. Sometimes the respectful thing is to agree to disagree and to honor each other's right to sit in difference of opinion. One of my videos I'm going to talk about is force, because oftentimes when we see conflict where it escalates to a place that's not pleasant is when one person feels forced, pushed, or bullied to assume the opinion or ways of being of another person. So really watch that as you're dealing with conflict. I invite you to look at conflict as your access to change and your openness to embracing and seeing difference, a different point of view. This week's habit is conflict. My name is Suzanne Hart. Take care.